This is the story of brutal murder of Robison family, aka the Goodhart murders, that happened on June 25, 1968, near Goodhart, Michigan. The Robison family, Richard, his wife Shirley, and their 4 children, Richie, Gary, Randy, and Susan, were shot and killed while on vacation in their Lake Michigan cottage. According to Michigan Live, a couple and their 4 children were systematically hunted down as they vacationed in their cottage near Goodhart in the summer of 1968. They were shot one by one. Some were also bludgeoned, possibly with a claw hammer. The youngest victim was the family's only girl, just 7 years old. There is no mystery behind the Robison family murders. They say the prime suspect identified by police was the only real suspect, a man who killed himself as police were preparing to arrest him on 6 counts of murder in 1973. Goodhart, Michigan. Details of the Robison family murders were so heinous and brutal. It's not surprising that whispers about the mass slaying continue to linger 50 years after their bodies were discovered in their lakeside summer home in northern Michigan. A couple and their 4 children were systematically hunted down as they vacationed in their cottage near Goodhart in the summer of 1968. They were shot one by one. Some were also bludgeoned, possibly with a claw hammer. The youngest victim was the family's only girl, just 7 years old. There was a lengthy police investigation, stretching from the remote crime scene and across the state to southeast Michigan, where the family lived for most of the year and Dick Robison ran his publishing company. There were autopsies, burials, then the bodies were exhumed for more autopsies. According to state police records, the list of witnesses interviewed was 2 pages long. A suspect was zeroed in on, but never arrested, and after 5 decades, the hefty case files remain stacked in a category that's typically considered a death knell for investigations, those marked inactive and unsolved. But this year, something groundbreaking has been happening with the Robison case. To mark the 50th anniversary of the murders that left a violent stain on this summer resort mecca, retired investigators have joined forces with a local historian and author to hold community forums on the case. They've shared details of the investigation with standing room-only crowds in Harbor Springs and Petoskey. A final presentation is planned for October 30 at the Charlevoix Public Library. It's all being done with this rumor-squelching message in mind. There is no mystery behind the Robison family murders. They say the prime suspect identified by police was the only real suspect, a man who killed himself as police were preparing to arrest him on 6 counts of murder in 1973. To keep perpetuating other myths is wrong, they say. I think it's unprecedented, author Marty Link said of this year's traveling presentations. I don't know of any other case where this has happened. Link, who penned When Evil Came to Goodhart in 2008 and recently refreshed it for republishing this year, said she's been struck by the size of the sold-out audiences. She thinks it's because of how this case has resonated with the up north community as a whole. People care, she said. This was an entire family. It wasn't just a movie. It wasn't a novel. It was a real family who had people who loved and cared about them. The slayings rocked an area known for being Michigan's summer playground. The lurid details have stayed with people, whether you're talking about families whose names have been connected to a town for generations, or summer people who embrace it as their own for a few months each year. So when violence knocks on that door, I think up here we kind of take that personally, she said. Link will be speaking at the Charlevoix event along with its primary organizer, Richard Wiles. Other forum participants this summer have included former Oakland County Assistant Prosecutor Ron Kovalt, Dick Smith, who was an Emmett County prosecutor at the time of the murders and later became a judge, and retired Michigan State Police Detective Lloyd Stearns, who worked on the case for years. Wiles, a historical researcher and a retired Petoskey High School history teacher, said getting the facts out is vital in an area where some people for years have been fanning the murder mystery myths. These presentations are designed to put to rest any long-standing gossip about locals who had contact with the Robisons before the murders, like the cottage caretaker's family, or men who were tree trimming in that area that summer, he said. Or the rumors that shoddy police work led to an unsolvable case. That's not true either, they say. There are a lot of rural myths up there, Wiles said. People's reputations have been besmirched. We're just trying to get the truth out. Complaints of horrible smell lead to gruesome discovery. The first thing that tipped off neighbors that there might be something amiss at the Robesons' cottage in the summer of 1968 was the stench permeating the woods in the Blisswood Resort. Dick and Shirley Robeson and their 4 children had spent most of that year in the Detroit area, where Dick Robeson worked in advertising and was publisher of an art magazine. Their home there was on a quiet street in Lathrop Village. By early June, they'd arrived at Somerset, their log-and-stone cottage that was a short trek north of Harbor Springs, down a twisting road a half-mile west of Lakeshore Drive. Its front door sat about 100 feet away from Lake Michigan, according to a state police crime scene description. When a neighbor complained about a bad smell coming from the area of the Robesons' cottage, a caretaker stopped by to check on things on July 22nd and found the doors locked. Concerned, he pried open the door's molding to gain entry. It was then he saw the first body. Police later determined it was Shirley Robeson, 40, who lay on her stomach on the floor, with a plaid blanket covering her body from the knees up. The caretaker backed away and called police. Here's a description of where the bodies were found inside the cottage, according to a Michigan State Police summary, as well as the autopsy findings. The initial autopsies had to be done at the Emmett County Fairgrounds because the smell and the advanced state of decomposition made it impractical to bring the bodies into the morgue, police noted. This also spells out the findings during the second round of autopsies for some of the victims. Their bodies were exhumed from a Southfield cemetery in November 1968 because investigators wanted to check for more evidence. Investigators later determined someone had shot through a cottage window with a rifle, killing Dick Robeson and one of the boys. The others were chased down and shot one by one. The killer closed the curtains, locked the door, turned up the heat, then tried to cover the bullet holes in the window with a piece of cardboard. To be continued.